There is a space in my heart where I find the truth. I find me in you, a truth beyond what you may see now. But when we are one, we bring more good about. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. I see with new eyes, allow and unfold, embrace and let go, trust the flow. There's a freedom in love when you follow your heart. Together we are stronger than we could ever be apart. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Breathe in and out. Slowly feel all that's around you. All that you feel, all that you know. Let it go. Welcome to love. Welcome to peace. Welcome to our community. Be who you are. Let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. Yeah, when we unite. Oh, we unite. Yeah, yeah, when we unite. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You are welcome here. Love is welcome here. Peace is welcome here. You are welcome here.
Welcome and good afternoon, everyone. I am Reverend Cindy Grimes, and I would love to welcome you to our broadcast today from Center for Spiritual Living, Ocala. I'm going to let you know a little bit about us. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. You are welcome here. God, I love that song by John Stringer so much. It brings tears to my eyes almost every time I hear it. So this is who we are at Center for Spiritual Living, Ocala. Oops. These are the things that we value at CSL Ocala. Number one, and at the top of our list, is spiritual growth and practice. And we are spending this month talking about the practice of visioning, and I'm super excited about that. We value love It is where we come from. It is the essence of who we are. And it is also at the top of our list. We value appreciation. We know that what we appreciate grows in our awareness and in our perception. We value community. Oh my gosh, we were supposed to come together today in person for our monthly gathering, which we had to cancel due to COVID. And so I was disappointed. I know some other folks are disappointed about that as well. But we are just looking out for the best interests of our community and know that we'll be gathering again as soon as we can. But community is on our list of values, as is freedom, freedom of expression, freedom to create. We value health and wholeness, as well as generosity and financial well-being. And our vision at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala is that we are a model center for spiritual living, as evidenced by the transformational impact we have on our own spiritual community, on the larger Centers for Spiritual Living organization, and on the community at large. We are just one of over 400 Centers for Spiritual Living that are located all over the world. And our vision as the larger organization is a world that works for everyone. And this is how we at CSL Ocala fit into that vision. And our mission is to empower individuals to awaken to the power and presence that lies within and all around them so that they can live their best lives, so that we can all live our best lives. So that's what makes us, I think, a little different than some other denominations, in the fact that we really believe that God is all there is, right? A lot of other faiths say that, but there's like God and there's us. And for us at Centers for Spiritual Living, we believe that we are part of that essence that we call God, spirit, universe, infinite potential, whatever it is that you want to call it, we are part of that. And so we're here expressing today as that. And I'm just so grateful that you have chosen to spend a little time with us today. So I want to tell you a little bit about what's been going on. We are this year, CSL Ocala, taking on the Revolutionary Love Project, which is based on a book by a woman named Valerie Kaur that is called See No Stranger. And let me put that up there so you can see that's Valerie. And in the book See No Stranger, a memoir and manifesto of revolutionary love. Now, what do we mean by revolutionary love? What is that? Valerie defines it this way. Love is a form of sweet labor, fierce, bloody, imperfect, life-giving, a choice that we make over and over again. This is a love that can be taught, that can be modeled, and can be practiced. It is the choice to enter into that labor for others, for people that we may deem as our opponents, and for ourselves in order to transform the world around us. And you can see there is a compass on the screen there where there's a segment of others, see no stranger. And that's the place where we started at the beginning of the year, talking about wonder as a practice for loving other people. And then we went into grief and fighting and feeling our own rage in terms of loving our opponents. So that's the section of the compass that we're in right now. We've talked about rage, allowing ourselves to feel our own emotions and what is there, our own pain, so that we can have then the capacity to listen to our opponents. And this month, we're talking about what Valerie calls reimagining. So we've talked about raging, listening, and reimagining with respect to our opponents. And this is a place, I think, where we really shine as Centers for Spiritual Living, because we have a practice that we call visioning, which is distinct from visualizing. For those of you who've not heard the term, we're going to spend the whole month talking about this. And I've invited some different friends of mine to have that conversation, people who I know are really adept and understand this process of visioning and have used it in their lives. And but before we get into the process of visioning today, we're going to talk about some of the collective myths that we need to reimagine, or that we would be served by reimagining, both personally and collectively. And so to prepare for that, I'm going to invite our practitioner, Donna Davis. Hey, Donna.
Hi, hello.
How you doing, honey?
I'm doing so good. Oh man, you were going down those topics and I was thinking, oh, I remember that one. Ooh, that was a good one. Ooh, that was another good one.
Yeah.
It was nice. Yeah.
It has been really good. I mean, it has deepened, I think, my own understanding of peace building and what it really means to love other people.
Yes, especially at a time when the world right now is at such odds with each other. It's
Yeah.
nice to understand it and to be able to really break it apart and really get the meat and potatoes of it so that then we can start building upon this thing that we got, like this reset that COVID gave us.
Yes, big time reset. Well, I'm going to let you take it over for a little bit and pray us in, and then we're going to invite our other guest in and jump into this conversation. So thank you, Donna.
Fabulous. All right. Welcome, welcome, everybody. It's so nice to be in this space at Your Phoenix is Rising and representing this, which is CSL Ocala. Center for Spiritual Living Ocala is near and dear to my heart. And I just love our community so much. And we are so far reaching right now and coming into your home and on your phone. And so I'm going to ask you to just drop into this moment with me into affirmative prayer, the thing that we call the spiritual mind treatment, which is training the brain to see things in a mindful spiritual way. So we take a breath in together and breathe it on out. And in my spiritual practice, I use a little bit of essential oils and drink some awesome, good water into my body. And just allow the breath to come easily and naturally now. I recognize the allness of the one. One first cause, beautiful life energy, creative mind, expressing all around me. It is everything. It is the spaces in between all things. Divine intelligence behind all of it, the way it works. And I am a part of that one. And my energy lends to the very song that is the universe. Even though I'm but one instrument, together we make one beautiful sound that we call life. And I know if it's true for me, it's true for every other person on the planet. Every other living thing is also in this orchestra that is life. And the great conductor behind it all is love. And as I breathe in the air around me, that is always life-giving, I know that the mind of God is always pure, whole, perfect, complete. And I know that as today's ideas poured forth through Reverend Cindy and Reverend Rod and myself to those who are listening, and as spirit speaks to spirit and spirit understands spirit and spirit begins to remember itself through me and Cindy and Rodney and everyone else, I am stepping into that space of gratitude for this. Gratitude for this teaching, gratitude for my own knowingness, gratitude for God and for life itself. I allow that to wash over my being. And I release it into the law, knowing that it's always working for the highest and best of each and every one of us. And so it is. Amen. Ashe.
Oops. I was saying thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
like you always put me in a whole different space. And I have to come back and be like, oh yeah, I have something to do here today.
Yes.
Oh, thank
Oh
you
my
so much.
goodness. One of my favorite TikTokers does the "and we sip" thing when she has a drink, and I always have my water. So every time I'm like, "and we sip." At the end, you just finish it and release it and sip.
Yes, bring it in, have a sip. All right, you're complete now. I can see that.
I am complete. Yes. I'm complete.
Excellent, excellent. Well, let me invite our other guest today is Reverend Rodney Gittens from the One Love Center in Brooklyn, New York. And here we are, Reverend Rodney.
Hello, everyone.
So wonderful to see you. Thank you
Blessing.
so
Always
much.
good to be in the presence of love. Thank you.
Yes, yes. We love you. We love you.
Love
So,
right back at you. Thank
right back at you. Yeah. So today we are on that part of the compass, as I said, about loving our opponents. We talked about rage, right? Feeling our own stuff, all of our stuff. And then the idea of listening, like wholeheartedly, right? Listening to ourselves, what's going on inside of ourselves, and listening to our opponents when we have the capacity to do that, right? Because we're not always in a space to be able to listen, nor should we expect ourselves to, right? So now we take all the information that we've gotten and use it to reimagine what our future could be, what it could be, not what it should be, but what it could be as we meet the needs, of ourselves and others. And so, we've got 5 weeks in August. Oh, we already had a week. I wasn't here. Anyway, four more weeks to talk about this idea of visioning. And I thought that we would open with just talking about some of the collective, what I like to call BS, collective belief systems, really, that don't serve us. Right, individually or collectively. And so there's like 4 or 5 of them. I don't know how many we're going to get to talk about today, but the really big one that we need to address is the idea of scarcity, right? The myth of scarcity, that there's not enough, that we don't have enough, that we are not enough, like fill in the blank of whatever you want to say, right? Not rich enough, not smart enough, not tall enough. There isn't enough love in the world. There isn't enough whatever, fill in the blank. And so I just want to unpack some of these myths and things that we believe that are such a part of our collective idea, of our paradigm, that we might not even realize that it's there. Right? So does either one of you want to jump in on this question of how has that idea of not enough, the myths of scarcity, I'm not enough, more is better, how has that affected you personally, and how do you think it affects us collectively?
Yeah. Well, I think I'll first start with a little small idea of wanting something as a child, and my parents always telling me, we don't have enough money for that. You can't have that. And I heard that so often in my life, so much so that I had developed a pattern of not asking for what I want. And that's how it impacted my life. Why should I ask? I'm not going to get it anyway. There's not enough money. There's not enough whatever for me. Even though I see other people, even family members, get what they asked for, I didn't get it. So, hey, just saying. But I remember in one instance where I wanted a bicycle. I thought, okay, I'm going to ask for this bicycle, and I did. And the response was, well, you get good grades for the school year, and we'll buy you a bike. I busted it out. I got great grades, and there was no bike. It was like, there wasn't even a plausible explanation. I mean, of course, that didn't translate in my mind as a child. It was just like, no bike? No bike under the Christmas tree, no bike for my birthday. It was like, there's no bike. and that I just shut it down. I'm not asking. And I mean, there were times when I had to ask, but for the most part, if it was really a heartfelt desire, I wouldn't ask. And so I'll say very quickly, and then I'll move on to another area of this, if I may. Um, so in my later adulthood, and I have an affinity for acronyms, I had to reimagine asking. Like, how do I ask and not feel hurt if I don't get? How do I ask and feel supported whether I get it or not? So I made up an acronym for ask in a way that I will always be supported. And so ASK is accessing spiritual knowledge. And so as I ask from that place within, knowing that, I'm in some way, shape, or form, there's going to be spiritual knowledge that's going to be imparted to me or through me, that way it's going to serve me. And so I feel empowered by accessing spiritual knowledge as I'm putting it out there in the world to individuals or however. And so that's the first thing that comes to me. And I've become pretty centered in that, in being able to really ask from a place of knowing already and being able to receive what it is I need to know, to be, to do, to have, all of that. So the thing about scarcity, however, and I see it as such a seemingly age-old human problem, especially when it comes to economics, especially when it comes to so-called free enterprise, when it comes to where countries, and I know especially this country, can create scarcity in order to create demand, in order to raise, in order to control our lives. And to me, it's just mind-boggling how we can create opponents, through scarcity. Like, yes, I mean, there are people living out, I guess if they live in a desert, they're fighting over a water hole instead of like, hey, there's not enough for everybody. And they want to fight each other. And I'm sure there have been wars based on scarcity, and when people just could not figure out how to live in harmony. And I believe nature, allows for us to learn how to survive together, how to really make it work without being greedy and all those other things. So that's what I wanted to quickly throw into the pot.
Thanks, Rodney. Thank you. I'm looking at all of our guests and people who are checking in. We've got Rev Marie here and Reverend Teresa. And so I just love seeing all those names there. So put your questions in for folks who are watching online. And I wanted to make a shout out, especially to Rev Marie, because I'm doing a book study with her right now. And a book was recommended out of the book that we were reading called The Soul of Money. By Lynn Twist. And she really breaks down this idea of scarcity and the lie that it is. And the fact that it happens to like it is one of those universal things that we have. Like, it doesn't seem to matter how much money a person has, where they're from, how old they are. These ideas of scarcity, that there's not enough and I have to get mine, exists like everywhere. Everywhere. It's the big lie that we have believed. And just like you said, Ronnie, you look outside, we live in an abundant universe, and we know, spiritually speaking, that everything we need is already here. Everything. Everything. There's nothing new that's going to be created. Like it all already exists. So what we have is not a problem of not having enough, but either belief systems or the willingness or distribution issues, right? Like there's plenty of food. There's plenty of food being grown that we could feed the entire world, but people are starving because of either lack of willingness or ignorance or it not being distributed, properly. So I just wanted to throw that in there and thank Marie for creating that space, for us and introducing me to that book.
But there's an imagining in ways that create the scarcity. Like that's the highest level that they're using is to not grow food, is to grow food and destroy it and prevent people from being easily nurtured by the planet, which is mind-boggling. Like how to use your creative powers to not create, you know.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Wow. Dottie, you want to chime in?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking at the deepest level, you know, when you start to like go down the roller coaster, that is the lie that would be scarcity. It comes back down to like one or two items that I can honestly say that I think it is. And I think it's I know that there's a demand, thus I am going to provide for that demand so that I can get the money in return for the demand to do and live the life I want to live and do. Right? So that means that I have to then hoard this little square of land and then I will do it and manufacture whatever. But I'm providing jobs for people, which is great, but I control the food that's being produced. And so if you don't have the money to give to me and what I need, then you don't get the food. And that's why we have starving people. Whereas there are acres and acres of land that people could live on and just free range and eat and have fun and whatnot. But we control the land because you never know. We may run out of land and then we need that little piece of land that we got tucked away, you know, for a better day or for whatever it is. And it just feels this feeling of I have to control my own experience in the world. And thus I need this in order to do it. And that's then tied into well, if you can do it, then I want to do it too. So then how do I get that amount of money? So now I click into that idea that says, oh yes, I need to control. And then that's that scarcity. It just keeps going and going and going. And then it becomes this roller coaster ride. And then there are those who have it. And I don't even think anybody ever gets to the pinnacle of, yes, I'm here. I have arrived. You know, it's like you said, it just seems like the more you have, the more you need.
For some, you know, for some. And here's the thing, you could have very little and be satisfied, right?
Yeah.
We can have very little and feel secure.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And
You can have, it's an insight, it's a mind game.
And it's for those breaking
mind
free from that wheel. The
Right.
ones that are saying, no, I'm just going to be happy right here. I don't need that wheel. It's okay.
Yeah.
But you know, it's and that's so true because there could be seeming scarcity. Like you can have a village that doesn't seem to have a lot. Like individually, they might have a little, and if you look at it, imagine it in one way, they could become opponents. However, in the other way of reimagining that thought, they pull together and there is no opposition. They're working together and thriving with what seems to be a little. You know, it's like, I guess maybe it gets biblical, you know, you get a few loaves and a few fish and everybody kind of contributes. And next thing you got a feast going on, you know, and nobody has to take from another because they're all contributing. And there doesn't have to be opponents. So scarcity could create opponents. On the other hand, the other thought is that it could create a thriving community.
Opportunities, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Right? There you go. It's the thing, you know, it's the challenge, but there's the opportunity or the crisis, right? There's the danger and the opportunity at the same time. You know, it's how we choose to spin it. We got some great comments here in the chat. Steve McCullough, our world has confused money with wealth. Spiritually, wealth and love are saved in the heart and soul. The more of that you give away, the more full your soul becomes. Money then becomes the means to that end. But more often, it becomes the end in itself. Isn't that the truth? Yeah, for too many people, it becomes the end. You know, the end.
And that creates opponents for that seemingly end.
Yeah.
Got to get mine.
if you can get off of the, the wheel, right? Because there's also this other belief that more is better,
Mm.
right? Like I mean, this is another one of those things, is deeply ingrained. More is better, more is better. So it's like you never get to the finish line. There's never enough, right? You're continually on that hamster wheel, trying to get enough to fill this feeling of emptiness and insecurity,
Mm.
right?
Then
So
you implode, essentially.
yeah, I mean,
You
we have
implode within yourself.
people who are like hoarders of money, right?
Yes.
They hoard money, billions, and then the game becomes about holding on to it because of the fear of scarcity, or I'm going to lose it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. You really need to read that book. I should put it in the chat, The Soul of Money.
Yes, I got it on Audible.
Great.
The minute you mentioned it, I went on Audible and just got it because we have that
Yes.
long drive. So I'm like, yes, I know what I'm listening to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let me see. Another one of the myths that I want to talk about. There's a bunch of them, but the big ones, I think, the idea that some of us are better than others.
Mm.
Right. And that shows up in so many different ways, right?
Yeah.
So there's ideas of people being better because they're smarter, or they have more money, or, the bigger house, or the whatever, and then we compare ourselves in that,
Mm-hmm.
and again, going back to never good enough. They're all intertwined.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that? Has that idea affected you? Feeling
Oh,
like
yeah.
less than?
Oh, absolutely. I remember, I don't remember who I was telling the other day that I went to college in Florida, for Florida Atlantic University, for psychology, and had a nervous breakdown my sophomore year and had to drop out. And it was awful because I wanted to be a psychiatrist. I wanted to be a doctor. This was my dream and goal and everything. Everybody just knew I was going to do that. That was my path. And I forced myself into this horrible, oh my God, if I don't have straight A's, then I'm not good enough, and I won't ever become a doctor, and all the fear around that forced me right out of that, the very thing that I wanted. And I just kept thinking that if I just was smart enough, then this wouldn't be a problem. If I just studied more, this wouldn't be a problem. If I was it was all this stuff that you kept putting on yourself and putting on yourself and putting yourself. And the truth to the whole thing was that I had it all with me the whole time. I was just fine. I just needed to just try. And whatever happened, happened. And that was it.
Yeah.
And had I known that lesson then, I would not have stressed myself out. I would not have had to be put on medication. I mean, it was this awful thing. I ended up in a hospital, in a psych hospital. It was terrible. And I thought, oh my God. And then, of course, I got labeled clinical depression and then got put on medication and all this other stuff. And it just snowballed me down this road of, I'm not good enough. There's something broken. I was born broken. I don't know. Something ain't right with me. And I just thought, and I dove into spirituality and was very Christian. And I thought, golly, why was I not born with whatever rightness was? Why is it that God didn't make it? And then, of course, I was told I was born in sin and iniquity. So that's why I was broken. And so I believed it. I thought, yeah, there it is, proof.
Right.
And lots of people walk around with that proof that says that I was born of sin and I am broken. I come in as a broken toy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the truth is that if everything is made in the likeness and images of the one, then how can the one be broken?
Right.
And that is what I had to retrain my mind to say. And when the negative self-talk comes in that says you're not good enough, I said, wait a minute, all of this is God anyway, which means all of me is God. So this is God just playing around with this concept right here. And so that's how I had to start looking at myself. Because if I thought about it the other way, I would spiral down the clinical depression road. and not be medicated anymore, it would have taken me down that rabbit hole. And I was like, no, that's a different idea. Let me choose something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kudos to you, Donna. Kudos for breaking out of that whole thing.
It still shows up. It rears its ugly head from time to time when I'm in an experience with somebody or something, and that thing looks at me and says, oh, you did that wrong. Or like, your boss calls you to the room, the office, you go in there and you're, oh my God, here's my not enoughness coming to stare me in the face. Children go through this when they're called to their mom wants to talk to you. Your not enoughness is about to be pointed out.
Oh, yeah.
Your boss. I mean, any number of these authority figures that come to you to say that your not enoughness is going to be pointed out now. So just brace yourself.
Right.
And of course, if you've been telling yourself that same story and having that negative self-talk, this is just validation to say, yes, you're right. You are not enough.
Yes.
And then it just pokes at you, and then you start to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you are in a spiritual teaching like this that says God's everywhere, oh, I'm just telling God, you're not enoughness. Oh, wait a minute. That doesn't quite translate. If God's perfect, whole, and complete, then the not enoughness really isn't a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It dissolves.
Reverend Mary Ellen just said, Donna, you are perfect, whole, and complete, walking sunshine in my world.
Thank you, honey. I had to get used to being my big self because I thought, oh man, I'm not like this person. I'm not like that person. And I had to be okay with me, which, so not some people can't handle it. It's okay. It's all right. It's not for everybody. It's all right though.
But that's the whole thing of the spiritual journey, the path. It really is. I mean, if you put it in a nutshell, I think it's to really come to love and appreciate yourself just the way you are, right? For each one of us, to love and appreciate ourselves exactly as we are, knowing that we're enough, knowing that everybody else is enough, right? And then I think the number of opponents disappears.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you start to see them as people navigating a story. Like I can see when they're in it, really in it. And you're like, wow, you're really going through that, huh? And I'm just kind of witnessing it. And I'm going, yeah. And then you can tell other people join in the story with them. They buy into whatever it is that person's going through. And now they're in the story. And you're like, wow, Yeah. So, but it's easy to get pulled into it. Kind of like when you're in a dream and you don't realize you're in a dream. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, whoa, I'm dreaming. Same thing.
I guess, I don't know if everybody knows that I just had COVID, just got over it again, second time. And this was a different experience. It wasn't as difficult physically, but it was much more difficult for me emotionally, spiritually. And all of that ugly, Donna, all of that stuff came up. All the not enough. Why did I get sick again? What is the message the universe is trying to give me that I didn't get the first freaking time I had COVID? It was like a lot of a lot of self it was bad, just beating myself up. And I love you two so much. You two of my friends that helped me come out of that pit, because I went right to that. I went right to victim mode. Why me? What did I do to bring this on? Into a very just negative, not good enough space again, and even my practices weren't working. I was visioning, I was trying to do the affirmations. And when I was visioning, there was nothing but black, just blackness. I couldn't see my way out. And thank God, I have friends, I have family and people that I can reach out to, because I know there are a lot of people that don't have that.
That tribal energy is so important. And that's the thing. It's sometimes they have to kind of be right there, because if not, you just don't know what you're going to do with yourself, because you're in that story. That's what I'm saying. It pulls you in, and it's like being in a bad dream and can't wake up.
Yep.
And you want to wake up because you're pinching yourself in your dream, oh, wake up. I know I have a practice here somewhere that could help me. Oops, can't do it. Got to make it through that nightmare, honey.
Yeah, you're like, it
That
comes down
shadow
to
work
me.
is real.
Yeah. I said principles, number one, practices, and people. My
Yeah.
principles, my practices, and my people. That's what I need when I get in that space, you know.
Yeah.
So, Ronnie, I'm looking at the time and we have to start wrapping it up. And I had the one other really big question, the other big BS that I wanted to talk about. And maybe we can just, just take a couple of minutes. But the last one is the belief that it has always been, things have always been like this and they will always be this way. Right. So when we have that belief, then why even try? Right. If there's not enough, like you, Rodney, right. When you were a kid saying, you know what, there isn't enough. I can't get what I want because there isn't enough. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it's always going to be.
Yeah.
And there are
Well,
people that live in that.
yeah, it's interesting because it's just like the previous question about some of us are better than others of us. It's like we're just born into that. It's like being born into that dream. It's like it's just this is what it is, and most certainly, I remember going through some of my own demons. And I remember hearing things like once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, once an addict, always an addict, or whatever it is, that there's no turnaround. That's going to be the way it is your whole life. I mean, and not being able to entertain another thought, to reimagine, or even imagine something different or better. Not realizing that there is anything different or better. And to me, that's the whole thing. It's like I'm so grateful for this teaching that allows us. I was speaking with somebody earlier today about that we practice teaching how to think, not what to think. We're allowing for we call being open at the top, being open-hearted, open in a way that allows us to entertain a new thought, and that's really what it's about. Because otherwise, we're just trapped in this merry-go-round. It's not so merry. It's just going around and around, thinking, well, I'm going to see the same thing that I always saw and get what I always got, and that's it. Not being able to look outside of that perimeter. It becomes a barrier. Our own thinking is a barrier. And how do we break out of that? And like we're going to constantly have opponents. We're going to constantly experience scarcity. We're going to constantly have that BS. It's a BS that we're born into. It smells and we think that's the way it's supposed to smell. No. It's like, how do we entertain a different smell? It's like, so yeah, that's how we can, how do I say it? Things get attracted into our lives that allow us an opportunity to move beyond that, to get a glimpse that it doesn't have to be this way, the way it was for my parents and parents' parents, and even that being better than us, being born, with a certain skin color, or born into a society with oppressors who are constantly feeding you information, generation after generation, that are saying this is the way it's been. We're always going to be better than you. You're not going to have any opportunity. However, my parents, and I remember hearing, it seemed like rhetoric. You have to be better than them. You have to be twice as good. So it was a double-edged sword. I said, well, thank God that I did listen and get that education that allowed me to see my own value and worth, and not necessarily have to be better than somebody else, meaning that we're still going to be opponents. Like, no, hey, I know I don't want to be my own opponent, fighting within myself, So yeah, things get to change. At some point, there's got to be an opportunity for change to happen, for me to see that it doesn't have to be this way as it was before, So anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
I think the biggest part really of it is that people say that things, it's always been this way, it's never going to change. Honey, that's not, it can never be true, because the one thing that's constant is change. It's the one thing that's always going to happen. It happens in our bodies, it happens in nature, it happens everywhere. We would love for it not to move, but it's like a river and it just keeps going. It's never going to stop. It's going to change. The difference is, the thing is, though, it doesn't change at the speed that we want it to change at. And that's the part that gets frustrating for me. I want it to change like right now, but sometimes it just takes a little bit more time.
But, you look at relationships, and a lot of times, we sing that song, "Hey, don't ever change. Let me love you just the way you are." And don't, no, we are changing, and prayerfully, hopefully, changing for the better. Or in a positive, stronger, uplifting way, not just for the individual, but for the community, for the family, or however, so no, it doesn't have to stay the same, and even in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are people who will say racism has always existed. It will always exist, right? There has always been war. There's always going to be war. There's always been the haves and the have-nots. That's always going to be. And these are the things that we take as truth. And when you take it as truth, why bother trying, right? Why bother changing anything? This is how it's always been. It's how it's always going to be, So we have to and it's slippery. It's really slippery, because sometimes I find myself falling into it even. Like, do we really believe peace is possible? Have we ever seen it?
Yeah.
As collectively, maybe not. I know for myself, I have experienced it. I know that I have been in that prison setting with a group of 25 men, and there is peace, and there is oneness, and there's experiences that these guys have not ever really experienced before. So I know it's possible. I know it's possible. And that's what keeps me doing this work. But it feels like a lot of times feels like an uphill climb, and people look at you like, oh, you're just one of those airy fairy dreamer people, but it's not that. It's what you said, Donna. Things are always changing. This is the truth. And the time that we are in now feels difficult. It feels painful, but you know what? We're still better today than we were
before.
Right?
That's the thing. It's changed. There's people that have done, all those airy fairy people from the 60s and 70s that were there screaming it at the top of a mountain, dancing around saying that we get it. Now they have put stuff in place. Things got different for us.
Better.
Way better.
There's still more to go, right?
There's so much more to go. It's moving. And there are others that are pushing against it, but it's moving. It cannot be not there. You want to resist, but kind of like giving birth, oh man, I changed my mind.
Yeah. Sorry.
Creativity is going to find a way. It's going to find a way to always, life is going to happen. And you can stand in front of the ocean and scream at it, but you cannot stop the tide.
Yeah. Yes. Fabulous. And that's, I think, for me, one of the great blessings of this teaching, is understanding our power to create, right? And our power to evolve. We're consciously, like now, we can actually think about, where do we want to head? Right? Like, let's envision that. Let's embody that. Let's know what that feels like. And that is, again, where I think we shine as a movement, as an organization, in that visioning process, helping people to move from what has always been to what can be, right? The greater yes that life is wanting to experience through us, as us.
Showing a new thought.
So we are a new thought. We are a new thought. So I think on that note, we got to wrap up our conversation, but we will be again picking it up next week and talking a little bit more about moving through the phases of consciousness, and that comes from the work of Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith and his visioning process. Of going through that life as a victim, life is happening to me, then life happens, then I make life happen, and then life happens through me, to the point of life is I am life. Life is happening as me, in, through, and as me.
Wow. Yeah.
It's beautiful, right?
It's so cool. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Beautiful, beautiful thing.
All right.
Thank you. You all want to say anything in closing?
I am looking forward to seeing people on Zoom. I just want to say that.
Thank you for that reminder. Yes. We'll be having a conversation
All right.
after this for anyone who wants to join us and continue this talk, this discussion, and join us. The information will be in the chat afterward.
Yes.
How about you, Reverend Rod?
No, thank you so much for the invite. I just want one quick thing. A lie believed as true is going to act like the truth. So it's really important to us to question ourselves, ask the right question, and entertain a new thought. And so thank you. A wonderful, delicious conversation here today. Thank you.
What a beautiful wrap. Thank you. Thank you, my loves. We'll
Love
see
you
you
all.
on Zoom. Love you
All right.
too. See y'all. Fabulous. What I didn't share was my affirmation, and I want to share that with you all now to just make this yours. After reading that book and this idea of scarcity and sufficiency, it's 3 parts. There is enough, I have enough, and I am enough. Right? So say that to yourself, make that your mantra. There is enough, I have enough, I am enough. And see how things start to change for you. The first thing that's going to happen is you're probably going to notice all those places where you feel like there's not enough. All of that stuff is going to show up so that you can look at it and release it and clear it from your consciousness, clear it from your understanding, so that you can move forward in a way that is powerful and worthy of the amazing spiritual being that you are. And so it is. And so it is. So let us see. It is time for us to do our offering. And oh, darn it. I switched up the graphics and I keep forgetting which way I need to go. Anyway, this is the affirmation, and I'm going to invite you, and maybe our production team can put the banner across the bottom to let you know how you can contribute to Center for Spiritual Living. We survive off of the tithes and the offerings of our community. So if this message resonates for you, if you get your spiritual food here, we just invite you to help support the center and the work that we're doing. We made it really super easy. You can go to cslocala.org/donate and donate via PayPal, or you can use your smartphone. And what you do is you text to the number that is going across the bottom, 352-320-5110. And you text the amount of money that you would like to send to CSL Ocala, and it will go right from your account to ours as soon as you set it up. Super easy, super simple. And we appreciate so much anything that you can give. If we have, 200 people that are giving $20 each, we're set for the month. That would be wonderful. So this is our affirmation, and sharing our gifts. Do just, make it your own. It is the nature of life to give of itself. As it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom, it is my nature to share the gifts of my time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am grateful. And so what else do we have going on here? See if we have any announcements. One announcement, there's still time to join the Big Sky retreat that is happening September 4th through the 9th in Big Sky, Montana. The main speaker is Reverend David Alt. The music team is Reverend Michael Gott, who is incredible, absolutely incredible. Reverend Melinda Wood, who comes to us from Unity, also incredibly gifted and talented. And the amazing Suze Ogden, if you have ever heard her, met her, you know she is unforgettable. And I will be speaking at Big Sky as well. And I tell you what, that me speaking at Big Sky came out of visioning. I sat in the Big Sky retreat back in 2015 and visioned that at some point I would be speaking from that stage. And this is the year that's going to happen. So these practices work. I just hope that the nuggets that we give you are serving you and serve to make your life path a little bit easier, a little bit smoother. And so I will close with our prayer. This is the prayer for protection that comes from James Dillett Freeman. And it is this: the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And I just pray and affirm that as you go through this week, whatever challenges you may face, whatever is happening in your life, that you have every resource, everything is already here that you need to move through whatever it is that you're going through. I know that without a shadow of a doubt. The question is for you and for your consciousness, for you to know that and embody that. And I just affirm that every challenge turns into an opportunity for you to live in your greatest expression of who you came here to be. Have a fabulous week, and I look forward to seeing some of you on Zoom. And we'll meet again next week. Love and blessings.